conceptual or narrative. The need to tell a story comes forth with signs, vessels that contain the defining traits. Thus, our exhibit moves on towards the altar, where we find our next question: should a manifesto be conceptual or narrative? Graphically speaking, the intentions of these works towards the audience are completely opposite. They may directly alienate their audience, leaving the text to be highly subject to interpretation, or barely relatable to any shaped language used to identify what is presented. Or they may be highly expressive, with images and signifiers that explicitly reference their content and create a sense of familiarity through shapes. The language used in the advertisement project Vero Lucano by Mario Bubbico, created in 2004, uses few high-contrast colors and shape language that helps distinguish the illustrated figures. The image represents a geometric stylization in plain yellow, red, and blue of a woman and a man in vintage work outfits. The two figures are red, with simple details and outlines in the same yellow as the background. Both of them have an expressionless face. All features have been reduced to their essence. Both of them face us head on. On the left, the woman holds a very large tray over her head, over which lay two big loaves of bread. Her skirt has triangular details and two heart-like shapes in the center, similar to folk motifs. On the right, a man embraces four long wheat stalks. He wears a handkerchief around his neck and a hat on his head. The two figures are surrounded by the silhouettes of various farm-work objects, among which oil and milk jugs, alternating between the same red of the two main figures and blue, contrasting with the yellow of the background. On the bottom of the image, centered between two farmers, we find the words Vero Lucano in yellow type over a red shop sign. To the left and the right of the shop sign, there are two blue carriage wheels, one smaller and one larger. Respectively, the silhouettes of a hog and a hare are jumping over them. The colors used in this narrative poster are yellow, red, and blue. The primary colors represent the simple life of farmers in the countryside. The line work is effective and implicit as it melts with the background color. The bucolic element is presented to us as current and contemporary, while also static and immobile. On the opposite side of the altar, we have the couscous recipe. This manifesto was created in 2009 by BCPT Associati and the Scarabottolo Collective. It represents a recipe conceptualized as a codified horizontal bar graph. In the top right corner, the recipe name is in white type, couscous Hakim Man. The height of each bar is proportional to the amount of each ingredient, and it is of the same hue as it. The color of each bar changes from left to right, from the vibrancy of raw ingredients to the duller tones as they cook. Even the water goes from a light blue to a brown hue as it becomes broth. On each bar, we also find short lines, either wavy, slanted, or similar to crosshatch, which codify the cooking time of each ingredient. A floral mandala is overlaid at the center of the poster, which makes reading the recipe much more difficult. From the top, the listed ingredients are water, salt, oil, couscous, fresh coriander, pumpkin, zucchini, white turnips, carrots, chickpeas, tomatoes, onions, cardamom, pepper, salt, veal, and oil once again. This manifesto reads almost like a real recipe. It can be a source of reflection and analysis over each component and the transformation process through the cooking of each ingredient. Only at the end, after fully analyzing the recipe, the traditionally poor dish can be understood in its inner complexity. Peasant culture in both cases is put at the center of the discussion. The poor dish and the poor people's cuisine, each ingredient and a couple of farmers with the animals they care for, cooking times and trade tools. We must also consider, other than the figurative aspect, what happens through the stylization and the use of geometric shapes. The shape becomes the basis of deconstruction in the simplest parts of each figure. It becomes then readable as either support or final piece. Guido Scarabottolo's illustration, made in 2012 for Wisława Szymborska's book of poems, the first sentence is always the most difficult, falls into the conceptual vein of this idea. The manifesto displays an upwards black rectangle in the middle of a white background. Its contour is slightly rounded and imprecise in places, as if it were painted with quick strokes. It embodies the concept of the everything submerged in a sea of empty, white nothingness. Scarabottolo strokes are capable of summing up an entity in just a few marks. Reality is portrayed as conceptual, according to a process which aims to create an impression of it, rather than a faithful reproduction. This is expressed through thin lines, with very little variety in weight. Vampiros de La Habana is a Cuban animation movie from 1985. The movie poster is an illustration by Cuban artist Muñoz Bachs. At the top, the title goes from margin to margin, and it's written in black lowercase type. Figure in the middle of the poster is a stylized vampire against a plain red background. The detail of vampire is cartoonish. His torso is squared, and he wears a yellow button-up shirt. His fangs, peeking from the corners of his smiling mouth, are yellow. In his lips he holds a lit cigar. He has blue skin and purplish hair. His eyes are closed, and a long thin green line stands for his nose. The role of the vampire as a parasite is reprised. However, this time, vampires are also parasites to their own species. The existence of vampire crime syndicates that see fellow vampires as possible prey is one of the movie's base elements. The vampire's blue skin is a stylization of a bloodless body. It takes on the secondary meaning as the skin of an undead. The poster is effective in its narrative purposes thanks to its simplicity. The cigar is an emblem of Cuba and Havana itself. The yellow fangs pop against the blue skin and characterize the vampire. The use of yellow in the button-up, the fangs, and the tip of the lit cigar makes them focal points, through which the title of the movie is expressed easily. The two geometric shapes in the posters become vessels for the two currents. Scarabottolo's black rectangle is an ultimate end, a culmination, a space so full that everything else is empty when compared to it. Bachs, on the other hand, implements the square shape as a stylization of the human body, a singular presence with a story of its own.